This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, of Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Brian David Mitchell. Every Mormon knows who he is. Unless you're a little kid. Little kids are not allowed to watch my channel. And yet, YouTube screws things up. But nonetheless, Brian David Mitchell, along with his wife, Wanda Barzee, kidnapped and raped little Elizabeth Smart. I think she was 14 years old when it happened. Could have been 16. She was a child. Kidnapped and raped from her home, from her bedroom, as her sister witnessed it. He was eventually caught, almost a year later, and put in the Salt Lake County Jail and evaluated by a psychologist for competency. And he was found not competent to proceed. And so he was locked up in the Provo detention center of psychos for the rest of his life. He was never going to see a prison cell. He was never going to be tried for his crimes. He was never going to be given due process. And in his evaluation, the psychologist got him to confess that he had been shown magazine porn by his dad, who was teaching him sex ed, showing him pictures of naked women. And it's put in his Wikipedia page, which is not under his name. It's like the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart or some title like that, in which they just throw it in. And it's like, what? Why? The psychologist is told to preach that porn is evil and is harmful, and thus why it was put in there. It was looking at magazine porn that caused Brian David Mitchell to practice child bride polygamy. No other cause, just porn. Monogamous porn caused Brian David Mitchell to do child bride polygamy. The image of a woman caused Brian David Mitchell to practice child bride polygamy. Psychologists keep pushing that porn is addictive, thus harmful, because it's addictive. And anybody who sees an image of a woman naked must go in and see a psychologist to get help. And if they refuse to get help, they're in denial that they need help. And so they need help to handle their addiction to the image of a woman. It's addictive. Right, all married men? And yet, there's a big elephant in the state of Utah that was ignored purposely. Because psychologists, along with porn being addictive and harmful, also dulls men's sexual drives. So it's addictive, but it dulls men's sexual drives. But it's addictive, but it dulls men's sexual drives. Right, all married men? And the majority of these psychologists who push this are women. Isn't that weird? They're the expert on men's sexual biology? Why is that? Are they trying to tell men what to... That's exactly what they're doing. Section 132. It's claimed to be July 12, 1843, but there is no original document. Joseph Smith Papers just shows Brigham Young's 1876 inclusion. There was no prior document. It's not in the Joseph Smith history. It wasn't a secret document hidden. It just appeared in publication in 1876 when Brigham Young came out with a new edition of the Doctrine and Covenants, along with some other stuff that just magically appeared. Creatio ex nihilo. And so it's claimed to be by Joseph Smith. And according to the Joseph Smith Papers, it replaced Joseph Smith's whole chapter on monogamy, condemning polygamy. So obviously Joseph Smith was wrong, and Brigham Young is the true prophet of the living Jesus, and therefore he's authorized to correct Joseph Smith's incorrect doctrinal position. Right? 1851, Brigham Young came out and ordered all the Mormons that he had trafficked to Utah. The Edmunds-Tucker Act shut down that criminal operation, by the way. 1887. Ordered publicly the practice of polygamy. Said it was Joseph who established it, but it was in secret. Only his Danites, who came in the first group, were practicing it and were obedient to it. All of these sex-trafficked women in polygamy who were ordered to obey their husband in sex trafficking under the penalty of death were ordered for the whole church now under the penalty of death to practice polygamy. And so obviously all these sex trafficked, threatened with death for disobedience, told that Joseph Smith ordered it. Their journals are true after writing about it, after Brigham Young ordered and threatened penalty of death and said it was Joseph who ordered it. We can trust their journals, right? Because Joseph Smith was wrong when he put monogamy in 1835's edition of the Doctrine and Covenants. And it's condemned 5 times in the Book of Mormon. And Joseph Smith's Section 132 from the Joseph Smith Papers, which also, or Section 131 in the Joseph Smith Papers, that shows the gutted part about Joseph talking to a monogamous couple, that if they get sealed in the temple as a monogamous couple, that they will be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. That was removed when Brigham Young put it in for the first time in 1876, Section 131, which then leads into Section 132, where Brigham Young is now claiming this has been Joseph's law all the time. The principle and doctrine of having many wives and concubines. And says, obey the instructions those who have received this law must obey the new and everlasting covenant. And if ye do not abide the covenant, ye are damned. No one can reject this covenant and be permitted to enter into the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. Death penalty. You know, it used to be the penalty in the temple. That was Brigham Young. He said, Joseph did it, not me. Just following orders. Have no choice. I can't change any of the doctrines of Joseph Smith. So we corrected him on monogamy. It's now polygamy. Because we can't change the doctrines of Joseph Smith. He's the founder. So we changed monogamy to polygamy. How many Mormons fall for this? How many ex-Mormons fall for this? Because Willard Richards was the one who forged the sealing documents after Joseph died, putting them in 1843. Before he then went on to marry in polygamy child bride marriage a 14 and a 16-year-old sisters. So stay away from porn. Obey the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They're just trying to save your life. And oh, by the way, Nelson brought back polygamy, in case you didn't know. Because you've been wicked and not going to the temple and making an oath and a covenant promise to obey the revised law of chastity. Have fun with that, Mormons. What else is he lying about?